Hello and welcome to Whimsy Creek Art. In today's video, we're going to discuss the ring pour. So I'm going to do 4 different ring pours in different styles on this video. We're going to use several colors from Craftsmart: Ocean Breeze, Gray, Dark Orange, Black, Lime Green, Brown, Vanilla, and these are all mixed with Floetrol, 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. And so with a ring pour, I do not use any silicone, so they're just paint and Floetrol. First I'm going to pour the black, and so I'm going to pour it, what you're wanting to do is pour it right down the side. And for a ring pour, honestly, you want your paints a little bit thicker than other pours. So with these Craftsmart paints, it is very hard to get a thicker paint. So this technique is probably not the best example to show with these Craftsmart paints. But I did want to use this technique in this series. And back to episode 1, we did supplies, and that was the 24-piece Craftsmart set. So I just wanted to show you doing a ring pour with some of these thinner paints. You can do it, it's just not as easy as doing it with a thicker, maybe heavy body or medium body paint. So what I'm doing is I'm just layering each color in the cup, and I'm being careful to not like mix them up like you would in a dirty cup or a dirty pour. I am layering each color very carefully by kind of pouring it down the side. And so I layer each cup very, very carefully by pouring it down the side each time. All right, now I'm going to start to just pour this out, and you can kind of see I'm trying to kind of go in a ring. I'm kind of doing a straight pour. This was kind of why I did this technique as my last technique for this paint pour series. Is a ring pour is not my best technique, but I'm gonna show you it. I'm gonna do it anyways. Practice makes perfect, I guess. But with having a stroke and being a little bit shaky with nerve damage, it's very hard for me to do a ring pour. So I wanted to show you, even though it's very difficult for me, I can do it. So I just poured that straight out in the middle, kind of tried to go in rings. At the end it was more of a rings. And then what I'm doing here is I'm stretching the paint out, very carefully rolling it around in kind of a counterclockwise position to just kind of very patiently and carefully. I don't want to tilt this like other techniques. You could just tilt it very, fast to one side. No, you want to very carefully go around to each side. Even if you got to go around a couple times, that's okay. Tilt it very patiently and carefully. Take your time, because you'll lose a lot of those rings if you don't take your time. So this video I am doing 4 different ring pours. So this first one, honestly, is probably not my best. I used a little bit too much black, but I did want to leave it in the video because I wanted to show that black will take over. Now the next one, I have the same exact colors, but I have a little less black and a couple of things that I do to kind of change it up a little bit. But I do like this one and how it turned out, and kind of that gray gave it almost that cloudy kind of smoky effect. So real fun, like almost spooky Halloween kind of feel to this one. I'm just making sure to get it to each of the corners, and I do not have silicone, but you can kind of see there's almost like little flecks, and that's what I'm talking about. Like the Craftsmart paint, the thinner craft paints are not the best for a ring pour. You can do it, but you're not going to get those crisp rings like a heavier, thicker paint. And so you can do all kinds of different techniques with these thinner Craftsmart paints, but a ring pour is probably the most difficult. Can be achieved, but it's a little bit more difficult. So, all right, now we're going to do the same exact colors, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to overstretch this one, and I'm going to use a lot less black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of frame it with black. I'm going to have a little bit of negative space at the edges of black. So I put a little bit of black there at each corner, and now I'm layering my cup, and what I'm doing is I'm not using as much black in the actual ring pour. I did start with just a little bit. Here I'm putting just a little bit more, but compared to the Ocean Breeze or the gray or the orange, I use a lot less black than those other colors. So all right, now I'm gonna ring as best as I can, and make sure this is going out and kind of making those rings the best I can. And see how still this has quite a bit of black in it, but using a lot less black is really making those colors stand out a little bit more in this one. And we're not gonna overstretch this one. This one's gonna have a little bit of a black negative space on all four corners and around the edges a little bit. So kind of going in a circular direction, kind of to create those rings. Now, if you're a new beginner, use your other hand to kind of catch any drips. Be ready to grab your other hand up there to kind of catch any drips that might be dripping off. So all right, just very patiently, very carefully rolling this around counterclockwise. You can go in any direction, just keep going in the same direction. If you start out going counterclockwise, just keep going counterclockwise, or if you start out going clockwise, just keep going clockwise. That's just the keep going in kind of a circular motion. Whichever direction you start out, just continue going in that direction. Okay, so now I'm going to spread out the black from the corners around to kind of create a negative space all the way around this ring pour. So one of the things to be careful to not, I'm just spreading it around in my finger, but what you would like to be careful about is I push the black up to the ring pour instead of vice versa. I don't pull the color down into the black because that would just muddy the edges. I push the black up to the edge of the color. That just kind of helps a little bit, create a little bit better of an edge there, just by pushing the black towards the color, towards the edge, instead of pulling the color down to the black. So all right, now we've got kind of a little bit of negative space here. Show you a little bit of close-up. No silicone in this one. A little bit of kind of lacing cell action. Now you're gonna get a little bit of that with Floetrol. Floetrol just gives a little bit of natural cell action. If you're not wanting any sort of lacing and wanting real crisp rings, Liquitex pouring medium instead of Floetrol will do a little bit better. But I like to go ahead and use Floetrol. It's a lot cheaper and I have no problem finding it. So these are all done 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. All 4 of these videos and all 4 of these pours and no silicone. All right, so now we're gonna do a triple ring pour on the same canvas. All 4 of these pours today in the video are 10 by 10 inch canvases. And so I have 1 ounce cups, these little tiny 1 ounce little like solo looking cups. I'm just randomly, I'm not making the 3 different cups match in what order I'm pouring the colors in. I'm more randomly because I want them to have the same colors but kind of in a different order, a different, I want them to match but not match at the same time, if that kind of makes sense. This is going to kind of create more of an interest in the background when we do a ring pour with 3 different cups that have very similar, very same colors but in different orders and such. So I'm just going ahead and making sure these are layering up in the cup by pouring them down the edge each time. And go ahead and just use that black sparingly because it does take over. So now I'm going to go ahead and move these aside so I can pour each of the cups individually. And If you notice, I'm using the edge of the canvas to kind of steady my hand. For somebody like me that does shake a lot, these multiple ring pours on one canvas where they're much smaller cups and I can kind of steady my arm, kind of my forearm is kind of sitting on the edge of the canvas steadying it. I'm able to do a more steady ring pour and a more steady circular motion. So if you're having a hard time kind of shaking a little bit with these ring pours, try to do smaller cups with multiple ring pours on a canvas with a smaller cup and try to steady your forearm either with your other hand or steady your forearm with on the canvas itself, or maybe on your work surface, or somehow try to steady that arm if you can, because I know how it is. I have a really hard time. So, all right, that's the first cup. This cup was more of kind of that vanilla color and blacks and stuff, not so much of the actual colors, just the vanilla and black, which I like kind of the contrast of. This background does end up kind of Halloween, it kind of gives that Halloween colors, that Halloween vibe. But all four of these paint pours kind of give a fall vibe to them. So, all right, now I'm just pouring this one out, very similar, same way as the other ones, but you can see how I'm not steadying my arm as much on this one. I've got it more raised in the air, not steadying the forearm, and you can kind of see I had a harder time going in the circular motion. Now here, I'm going to steady my arm a little bit better. I'm able to go in that circular motion a lot easier when I steady my forearm. So, all right, this would be 3 1-ounce cups on a 10 by 10 inch canvas. So multiple rings on one canvas. So there's so many different ways you can do a ring pour or a tree ring pour. You don't have to just do one. You can do multiple ones. You can do it with a little bit of negative space and so many different color combinations. But the next one we're going to do is a traveling tree ring pour. And this last one, the fourth one, is my favorite. So stay tuned. Keep watching for the last pour because it turns out to be my favorite one. So, all right, we've poured out that third cup. We're just getting that last little bit out. Same with the other pours we've done. Just very carefully, very patiently go to each edge. I don't want to tilt it too extreme, just tilting it a little bit, getting it to each edge. All right, zoom this out a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. But just carefully tilting each of these to the edge. Now I'm noticing that light vanilla color, that kind of off-white cream color, is creating more cells than some of the other colors, which is very interesting. I kind of like that kind of difference there, but it does not have silicone. None of the colors have silicone, but for some reason that vanilla color is creating kind of this cloudy cells, kind of cloud effect, which I'm liking. I have no problem with, but I can see in other pours and other paintings you might not want that. So just keep in mind, for some reason that really light color did create kind of cells without even having silicone. But Floetrol will do that sometimes. So I don't want to overstretch it. I was noticing I was really stretching it and kind of losing it off the one edge a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring in a little bit of black here to kind of create these edges. I just dipped my finger right in the black just to pull it right up there. And so again, the same as the last one. Pulling the black, pushing the black up to the color instead of pulling the color down into the black. All right, just kind of tilting that down a little bit. So this is a triple ring pour. And so these are real fun to do on longer canvases where you can do a bunch of tree rings right in a row on a longer canvas. You don't have to do them on a square canvas, but we're just sticking with continuity with this whole series. The whole series had 10 by 10 inch canvases. So here's a little bit of close-up shots of that. And then let's get to a traveling tree ring pour. Now this fourth one turned out so pretty. It kind of just really reminds me of fall, kind of caramel apple look to it. And so I'm starting out with this vanilla color, and I am going to go ahead and do a little bit of that vanilla color all around the edge here in just a moment. But I'm just layering up a cup here. I'm not using any black in this pour. I'm just using these more neutral kind of fall tones, the orange, the brown, the lime green. So I'm going to put that vanilla, kind of frame this pour with vanilla more on the top and bottom than both the left and right sides, but kind of framing it in a way. So now I'm just coming in with a palette knife and spreading that about, and then we're going to do our main traveling tree ring pour kind of in the middle, and then we'll stretch that about. So just getting a thin little layer of this base coat around, kind of framing in that pour we're going to do. And then all the colors, the base coat, everything is all the same exact consistency. Now we're just gonna pour it out, kind of creating a ring pour, but going in real slow. Don't want to go too fast because you still want those rings, but letting it kind of travel. And you can go just in a straight line. You can kind of move I'm just kind of moving all around and squiggling in different directions as I go, to kind of fill in the center, and then we'll stretch that all the way out. But loving the way this is going to end up. It's got very kind of caramel apple look to it. I don't know. That's just kind of the look it gave me. So just kind of moving along as you're pouring out to create those rings. And so then I'm going to stretch it out. And I don't like to leave it as like just a blob in the center kind of here. I like to stretch it out, pulling it over the edge in a few different places. Not pulling it over every edge, leaving a little bit of that vanilla on the edges to kind of create some negative space, but pulling it to where it's just kind of pulling over the edge just a little bit in a few spots. So very patiently just stretching it out. So I'm just going to stretch it here to the bottom where it just barely is coming over that edge, and that's what I mean by that. Where it's not completely all the way to the corner, but it's just enough to kind of pull it over there. Same with the top, just enough to kind of pull it over the top. And notice how that vanilla color, where I ended the pour with that kind of lighter color, is creating some more cells, kind of some pearl action almost. But those are just some other paint pour terminology. And we will get to pearl pours in a future video, but we are kind of winding down this series. This is the last technique I will be doing for this Basics of Paint Pour series. Here's a close-up of this last one. Oh, I just love it. It's beautiful. But the next video will be how to varnish your paint pours, how to clean off any silicone, how to varnish, and all that, all the finishing touches. Now that you've done all these pours, what do you do with them now at this point? So that'll be the final video to this series, will be the next one, how to varnish. But I have so many amazing videos coming for my channel, so please stay tuned and watch. But we are kind of winding down this series of Basics of Paint Pouring. So please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. All right, have a good one.